Hello, I'm Dr. Puzzler, and today this is sort of a tutorial for a um, package I've just barely created for Adventure Creator, sort of like a little bit of an add-on. Um, so this add-on is going to be for for having scenes that have like multiple states, and if you don't want to set it up by an action list or have multiple scenes, like duplicate scenes, then this is a package for you. This sort of hooks into Adventure Creator's variable system here, so you'd have let me delete that. So you'd have like a global variable to determine your in the scene state, and then it will automatically update items based off of that. And that kind of a bit of a sandbox scene here just to test on. So yeah, let's just go ahead and get started. I guess I should clarify the use case here a little bit. So this was made for AB on the Discord, and you know what they were wanting to do is set up their scenes so that way they can be either day or night, and so that's sort of where that's coming from. Like, if you want to have a scene that has like multiple different states where items need to be in different places, might need to look different, or you might need like different hotspots enabled or disabled. That's what this is for. So to start off, we're just gonna head onto the GitHub page here, which will be linked in the description. Of course, we're just gonna go to code, and you're just gonna clone the repository. You can open it up in GitHub Desktop, or you can just download the zip. I'm just going to download zip here. Okay, and so now we've got a zip file. And of course, I'm on a Mac here. This will be a very similar experience for anyone who is on Windows. If you're on Windows, I just do this the Windows way, so I'm just on a Mac. So just open up that zip, and we've got a few things in this folder here. We have the source code here, and by the way, in the manager has the manager, and also this README has basically the same description I'm going to give here, the same tutorial, just by text. So that's what's in there. The source code's all just in here. Yeah. And then we have a Unity package, which is what we're going to use just to open this into Unity. Let's see, actually cancel. I dragged that into the wrong folder. Yeah, so we'll just drag that, and I have a little scripts folder here. I would recommend just having your own scripts folder somewhere in the scenes, that way you know like where your scripts are going to be at. Yeah, so it's just going to have all of this stuff here. Just import. The benefit of using a Unity package like this is if it gets updated. If I update it, which I might, you can just drag in the new Unity package again, and it should. Actually, I'm not sure if this is true, but what it should do is it should recognize that there's some of these files already in here, and it'll be like, oh, you got all these files in here. Yeah, these assets are already imported into the project, so I'd just create a new package. You'd import it, and it'd be like, oh yeah, these files are changed, and then it'll just update it for you, which is nice. Instead of having to re-import stuff. But yeah, so we've got 11 scripts here. We have some toggles, we have some remembers for each of those toggles, and we have a manager. So just to get started off, we're going to create a new global variable, and you can name it whatever you want. Just create a new global variable in the AC manager, and make sure it's a Boolean. And you can name it whatever you want, so we can name it like butter my rolls. And yeah, you can name it whatever you want. Descriptive names, of course, are always better. Set it to whatever you want. We'll just leave it at false for now. And so then what we'll do is, so for every scene that we want this effect to be applied to, we want these scripts to work in, we need to have, that's broken, okay. We need to have a manager object. And actually I already got a manager object in here. I'm just going to delete it just to show you how to go through the process of creating that. Yeah, so what we'll do is we'll just go to game object and we'll just create an empty game object. And we'll just name it manager. And what we'll do now is we'll just drag the manager script onto here. We'll just add the manager component onto there. And now we've got our manager for this. And so we've got a few things here. We have a couple of variables down here. And these are really just for debugging purposes. Just in case something kind of breaks, you can kind of just double check to make sure that stuff is set up correctly. Sorry, I just woke up. The only thing we'll need to worry about here is this variable name. And we'll just name that exactly what our variable right here is named. So, yeah. So we'll just name it our variable name. And this is all set up, so we can just ignore that now. We don't need to worry about it anymore. As long as it just stays in our scene, we're fine. And of course, in any other scene you want this to work in, like say if I went to this scene here, in order for these scripts to work, I have to create a new manager object. So a manager object should be present in every single scene you want this effect to be applied to. And I did attempt to create a do not destroy unload. It was causing a couple of weird problems, so I left it out here, which is why you have to do it in every scene. I may update this later to make it so you just have to have one and just added it in at the beginning of the game. But we'll see. So, what we're gonna do is I'm just gonna show you every single of these components, these toggles. So we'll just start off with the visibility. So there's 5 of these toggles. There's hotspot, post-processing, tint, transform, and visibility. And we'll just start off with visibility, this object right here, visibility toggle. And you'll see right here it has a spot here for manager. That's just there just to make sure that, just for debugging purposes, just to make sure, double check if the manager actually got in here. So don't worry about that. You don't need to worry about inputting that in. And the script will do that automatically for us when the game is played. And as you can see, there is actually a couple of 4 Boolean variables here. We have the states to show the object and negate effect. So the states to show the object, basically if this variable is true and this is selected, then this will be visible. If it's false, then when it's true, it'll be invisible. And same here. And we can customize that to how we like. So let's just say we want this to be shown when it's true and not shown when it's false. We can play the game. I'm sorry, we got post-processing enabled there. But as you can see, that this square right here is now invisible because our variable is false. And if we change that to true, you'll see it'll turn to be invisible, or it'll turn to be visible. So one thing about this, just to keep in mind, is it will update in real time. So if you change it from one to another, it will update the value. If we change that to that, then it'll stay there. So we can technically change the values in real time, though you can't do that via a action or anything, so it's just in the inspector that you can do that. But there's another thing here, which is this negate effect. And negate effect basically makes us that way. It isn't affected by this variable at all, and so it kind of puts it outside of it. What you may want to do, say if you want to move something or make something invisible during its state where it should be visible, and you kind of want to just keep it where you kind of want to leave it out of here. Leave it out of the variable affecting it, since if you, like, say, tried to make this invisible while it was set to be visible, it wouldn't work. It would try to make it invisible, but it would just become visible right away afterwards. And so you can enable this, and you can see there's also the show on negate. That's just a default state, so once you disable negate effect, if you want to have like a default, this will just be like a default state that it'll go to right afterwards. And once it heads to that default state, you can change it to whatever you want, and it'll work just fine. And this negate effect can be turned on and off with the, actually I have an example here, with the object send message action. And it'll just be turn on and turn off. These three won't do anything there, so just use those. The visibility, just put in the object, use the send message, and boom, you've got that working for you. So that's visibility toggle. So let's just head on to hotspot toggle. Which is very similar to the visibility toggle. In fact, it's pretty much exactly the same in the way it functions. As you can see, it's disabled. We could turn this to true, and it becomes enabled. Same thing there. This all works exactly the same. It's just for hotspots rather than visibility. Not much more to explain there. Negate effect works the exact same. Everything there is pretty much the exact same, just different. Sorry. Well, my train of thought there. Yeah, just a different component it's affecting. So, with that, let's move on to our tint toggle, which is slightly different. Most of these are very similar, with some slight differences in a few. Tint toggle, instead of like affecting like a boolean for these, we are instead just coming up with the color we want it to be at different states. So if we want it to be red on true, we'll just set it to that, and then if it's false, maybe you want it to be blue, and then otherwise maybe just leave it at white, or maybe you want it to be black. And of course there's just that negate effect boolean. Negate effect works the exact same way as the others. So if we run this, well, actually I didn't point this out earlier, but you can't see that you now got a manager object in there. It'll search for that at the beginning when the scene is loaded in. And as you can see, because it is false, our color on false is that, and we can actually change our color from there, as you can see. And then of course if we put that to true, boom, it changes it to red. False there. And doing that won't do anything, but if we were to push this button, which one is it? Oh, as you can see, like if I push this hotspot here, which turns on negate effect, it'll turn to black. Turning it off does the same thing. So yeah, there's that. Next thing up, and actually, I'm going to just disable this for now until we need it, so we don't have to worry about that being there, because it is kind of overbearing on the scene. This one right here is a transform tint, and it's similar to the tint toggle in that no, I don't want the tint toggle. It's similar to the tint toggle in that it's not a boolean, but instead we have transforms, basically just the transform component for each of these values. As you can see, scale just defaults to 1, the rest of these default to 0. It has the translation, rotation, and scale. And then of course negate effect. The only difference between negate effect between this and others is that instead of having a default value when negate effect is applied, it just keeps its current value. So when you turn on negate effect, it'll just stay at the current position, but you can move it around however you want. But yeah, so if we just say like on true, we want this to be at 0, 0, 0. Maybe we want it to be a little bit longer, and we kind of wanted it to be kind of weird. Maybe we want it to be like weirdly turned. I don't know. Right? And then on false, maybe we just want it to be like a 90-degree angle. And maybe we want it to be like, yada, 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 right? Just random values here I'm putting in. And then we run it. As you can see, because it's false, it's kind of got this weird thing here. And then if we turn it to true, it moves there. Very easy, very simple. And then of course, if you were to enable negate effect, it just stays right where it is, but then we can move it around on our own and it won't do anything for us. If we turned off negate effect, as you can see, it's not gonna let us move any of these values. It'll keep it itself, right? And if I try to do it this way, it just won't let us do anything. E decides it wants to be dumb and crashes. So let's just hurry and reopen that. I'm using it's probably a bad decision. I'm using the Silicon version of 2021 Unity, which is just not quite the best idea ever, because it likes to crash. Anyway, so we've got one more toggle to worry about, which is the post-processing toggle. It's a lot like visibility and hotspot toggle, in that it's just true or false. States to enable the object, enable on negate, and as you can see, it doesn't like to work with the way I have these windows laid out. It doesn't like to do it. Right, so it's false right now, so it's not enabled on false. If we turn it to true, it becomes enabled. Of course, we have good old negate effect. If we enable negate, you can see it turns it off, turns it on, boom. Very simple. What it's affecting here is the just this volume component. So that's the toggles. But there's one more thing here, which is that there is actually and I'm just going to demonstrate this on one because it works exactly the same with everything. I'm just going to disable the rest of these and just use the visibility since it's really the easiest one to see this on, is the remember components. So if we go remember visibility toggle, as you can see, it creates a new remember component. We've kind of got, of course, that constant ID, this little save thing that we have with the rest of the remember components for Adventure Creator. And what this will do is this will remember the state of negate effect and apply that state on scene loading. Right, so of course we have our variable. We have our visibility test, and of course it's just, right now it's not being shown because it's false. But if we were to negate effect, and now it's shown, and then we leave the scene, or just reload the scene, but hotspot here won't leave it, it'll just reload it. We of course want this to stay the same, likely, if of course you have this on here. So we just run that, and boom. And it kind of looks a little bit weird because Unity likes to be a little bit weird. But as you can see, a negate effect is still applied, even though that's not the default value there. Of course, if we were to turn it, or no, we don't want to do that, it's whoopsie. If we were to turn negate effect off, we could reload the scene again. And as you can see, that value has still been applied here. It's still the same. Negate effect is still off. So that's a pretty useful little thing. It works as the exact same for everything else. It'll just save the negate effect to current state because these states are just determined by the variables, so those don't really need to be saved. And yeah, so that's this script, this script package. Link to it will be in the description, just link to the GitHub page. Yeah, the actual scripts here are pretty simple. Mostly, I just grab out these three because they're all pretty much the same. And you just move that over here. Yeah, this is, as you can see, we've got all the scripts up here. Pretty simple. I did a pretty good job of commenting these. The actual description in the scripts, at least, is just in the manager. Yeah, it's pretty simple stuff. It just kind of has some editor code, and then it just basically will just grab the variable and set it to a new variable. Grab the global variable, I mean, and then each of these will just basically have some editor script. It'll grab the manager component just to see what the variable is, and then it'll just update our sprites or whatever the object is every frame, depending on what the value is. And then of course we just got our stuff here for loading and also turning on and off negate effect. And of course then we have our members, which I technically wrote these, but I just really copied and pasted from the AC tutorial for creating remember components. So it's pretty much the same stuff as there. But yeah, pretty simple stuff. This should be a complete package. I might update it in the future with a couple more toggles or maybe some quality of life stuff. I don't know. We'll see. But until then, I'll see you later. Bye.